All right, class. So we are finishing up our one-step equations. Most of you are done with them already, and you should be moving on to some two-step equations. So we're going to go through some examples really quick on how to solve equations that have more than one step. So starting out, we have notes on two-step equations. Okay, so let's take a look at what we're going to do today. So for today, we should be able to solve equations with So we will use inverse operations, right? And we will use two of them, two inverse operations to solve one problem. So remember that word inverse means opposite operations, okay? So first thing I want us to do is to look at what we do see in the problem, right? So look at what you were doing in the problem to the variable. Remember, the variable just means the letter, right? Most of the time it will be x. Sometimes it will be a different one, but in these examples it's going to be x. And then when I talk about doing it, right, how do I undo it then, right? How do I create the opposite operation so that I can go backwards and find what x is? So I'm going to kind of use this word undo. So I'm going to solve by reversing, right, the steps. So let's look at an example. So I'm going to make a little thing over here. You don't have to do this, but sometimes for the first couple, it kind of helps students to see what we're doing here. So what's happening to the 9 and the x, right? We have a 9 is being multiplied by x. So if I see what I'm doing in the operation, I have 9x, right? So 9x is one thing that is being done in the operation. The other thing that's being done to the x is that I'm subtracting an 8, right? So I also have a minus, oops, I'm sorry, I put it on the wrong side. I have a minus 8. So I've got a do over on the left side. Okay, so continuing, sorry, I had to erase that. I had 9x and I have a minus 8, right? So that's what I see that's happening to the x side of the equation right here. Well, if I'm going to figure out how do I undo those things, I'm going to do the opposite of both those operations, but I'm going to do them in the opposite order. So the first thing I see is the 9 is multiplied by the x, and then the 8 is subtracted. But when I undo them, I want to do them in the opposite way. So if this is a minus 8, I want to do the plus 8 part first. And then if this is a 9 times an x, I want to do the dividing by 9 next, right? Because the opposite of multiplying is dividing. The opposite of subtracting is adding. So let's see how that looks in the actual problem, right? Sometimes I like to show students that we're going in opposite order, right? We're kind of going backwards, the opposite way a clock goes. A clock normally goes this way, right? But we're going to undo it and take it back in time and go backwards. So here I have a 9x minus 8, and I want to do that first step of undoing it by adding 8. And again, whatever you do to one side, you're going to do to the other. So that's my first step. I'm adding that 8 so that these will equal 0, right? And 0 kind of cancels. I use the word cancel a lot, but that's meaning that I'm either getting a 0 when I'm adding or subtracting, or I'm getting a 1 when I'm dividing. So negative 8 and positive 8 give me a 0 here, right? So I still have 9x, and I have kind of a plus 0, but I'm not going to write that. So I bring down my 9x, and I know I have 10 plus 8, which gives me 18. So I did this first step, right? I did the plus 8 step, and now I'm going to undo the other step. This was multiply by 9, so I'm going to divide by 9, and I'm going to do it on both sides. I'm dividing by the number that's with the x, because I want it to be alone. I want the x at the end to be by itself. And when I have a 9 divided by 9, that gives me a 1, or a 1x. So I end up with just an x on the left side, and 18 divided by 9 will give me a 2. And again, if you're struggling with the math part of it, just open your calculator, right, and put it in as you see it. 18, you can either do over using the fraction button, right, to make it look exactly like it does. The fraction button is that ABC button, over 9, okay, and get a 2, or you can just do 18 divided by 9, which means the same thing. I'm sorry, I typed 2, I said 9. 18 divided by 9, right, gives you a 2. Okay, so my answer here is 2, and if I wanted to check it, right, I would do 9 times 2, right, because 2 is my x. I'm putting it back in. I have 9x minus 8 equals 10. Well, 9 times 2 minus 8, 9 times 2 is 18, minus 8 should equal 10. Well, does 18 minus 8 equal 10? Yes, 10 equals 10. I got the right answer, right? If I plug back in my 2 where my x was, that gives me the correct answer. Do you have to do the check every time? No, but is it a good idea to think about if it works or not? Absolutely. And some people prefer to do the check in the calculator, right? So if I'm doing the 9 parentheses, and then I'm saying my x is 2, okay, and then minus 8, I can do that right there and say, oh, it equals 10. Oh, this equals 10, so I did that right. Okay, so I'm doing 9x, my x is 2, minus 8. All right, so I've got 2 U tries. I'm going to pause it. I want you to go ahead and try those, and I'll write the answers. Okay, so hopefully you see that you got the answers, x equals 5 and x equals 4. If you make sure your work is correct there, hopefully that will check out. You see I did little checks here, right? Check. All right, so the second examples are going to be the same sort of examples, but they're just going to say, what if the equation is reversed? And what do I mean by reversed? I mean that the x is on the right side. A lot of times you guys get confused because the x is on the other side of the equation. But do I do anything different? No, I want to look at where the x is. Well, what is happening to the x? What's the do part? The do part is there's a 2 times an x, and there's an x minus a 7. Well, the opposite of those would just be plus 7 and divide by 2, right? So I'm undoing both of those steps. But where do I start? Well, let's start with the plus 7, right? Just as we did here. We went this way, right? And then we're going to go back in order. So I'm adding 7 over here. And remember, we have to do it on both sides. So I'm adding 7 over here. That means these ones are going to cancel because they give me a 0. And 13 plus 7 gives me 20. And I still have a 2x. So instead of the x being on the left side, it's on the right side, but my steps are still the same to get x by itself. So I'm going to do the last step, which is to divide by the number with x, which is 2, the number that's multiplied by x. And I'm going to divide and get a 1, right? 1x, or just x, equals 20 divided by 2, which is 10. And if I want to check, I could say 13 is equal to 2 times 10 minus 7. Well, is 2 times 10 minus 7 13? I don't know. 2 times 10 minus 7 gives me 13, right? So I checked, got 13 is the answer, so 13 is equal to 13, so I did it right. All right, you guys try a couple more. They're just flipped around, but same types of problems. All right, so there are the answers for the you try ones, okay? Hopefully, again, you're pausing it, trying them, and making sure that you're getting them right, okay? Because when you do the practice, if you're just copying these down, you're not really going to have a whole lot of confidence because you haven't tried them on your own and then seen that you're doing them right, okay? If at this point you're getting them wrong and you want a little help, call me over, and I'll stop and I'll do some more examples with you. Let's do the last examples. Okay, so what if the constant number is first? Okay, so this is the ones that make people most confused, not because there's anything different again here, it just looks a little weird, and so students get a little confused, right? If I look at what's happening or what's being done, what I'm doing in the equation, I have a negative 4x and I have a negative 2. Well, they're in the opposite order, but I'm still looking at what's happening to x first is the multiply, right? So I have negative 4x, it's the closest to the x, and then I have a negative 2. Well, to undo both those things, I'm going to start with a positive 2, right? And I'm going to start with a divide by a negative 4. So let's do the first one first. I have a negative 2, so I want to add that 2, right? It's over here on its own. I want to get rid of that first. I'm adding the 2, so I get a 0, right? And I bring down, don't forget, this is a negative 4x equals 6 plus 2 is 8. And then my last step is to divide that number that's multiplied by the x that's right next to it, okay, from the equation, which is negative 4 here. So I'm going to divide by negative 4. I'll get 1, or 1x, and I'll get 8 divided by negative 4 gives me a negative 2. So let's check it, right? Negative 2 minus 4 times negative 2, does that equal 6? Well, again, there's a lot of negatives there. Oops, sorry, see that last little part. Negative 2 minus 4 times negative 2. Okay, when I type all those things in just as I have them, right, I've plugged in the x, right, which I found, which is negative 2, plugged it in, and I got a positive 6. Well, that's what the answer I should get is, right? So 6 on the left side is equal to 6 on the right side, which means I've done it correctly. All right, last pause, try the last two, and I will put them up and then start the video again. There you have it. Those are the last two examples here, which end up being a -5 and a -10. And here's the checks down at the bottom to make sure they worked. Hopefully you were seeing here that that 5 was a +5, so the opposite of that was a -5, right? I didn't draw my little things here because, again, I don't really do this every time, but it was a negative minus x and a +5. Even though we don't see the plus here, it is a plus, right? It's a +5. So we have to think about doing the opposite of that being a -5, okay? And same here. This was a +12, so the opposite is a -12, right? Because we don't see the plus, sometimes you guys forget that this is a +12 or a +12. So careful with those ones, but hopefully you're seeing those and getting those right. There are some practice problems for you on the other side of your sheet, okay? And then there will be a practice online to check at the end, just a couple problems, like 3 problems, to see if you're getting them right, okay? Good luck.